All right, we've reached 2010.
Yeah.
This is Cave's most active year in publishing. This year they released 10 albums, OSTs, arranges. In fact, the first one is an arrange and OST combined. It's CVAS-004. It is the Guwange arrange album and original soundtrack. Now, the OST is the second disc, and it is basically the same as what you would find on the Guwange/ESP Rade album. So the two samples you're going to hear now are from the arrange disc, which is really the much more interesting one anyway. We're starting with the last boss arrangement, Guwange-sama, arranged by Taro Fujikado. Don, this is your pick.
Yes, I chose it because it's fun and it has this rock and Asian vibe, which was the whole theme of the album. They asked the composers to kind of keep that Japanese-y kind of feel. And out of all the arrange albums, I think this one has definitely the highest production values.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good stuff on here. I mean,
and for those who aren't familiar with Taro Fujikado, he composed the PlayStation Network game Trash Panic.
Oh yeah, that game is so much fun.
And his music is always the crazier stuff on that game, and that I think that style kind of translates over to his arrangement.
Yeah, let's take a listen.
And that beat is just so catchy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this is one you could totally get away with playing at a club, like on the dance floor. Let's do it. I think people would really dig it, actually. All right. Now for my pick, and by the way, there are lots of great songs on this album, lots of great arrangers. I was shocked by this one because I didn't recognize the name. I should have, though. It's Maki Kirioka, who works for ProScience, so she works with Mitsuda. So you get a Mitsuda-esque arrangement. This is track 8, Household, which is the boss theme. And I'm going to start it a little later in the track for y'all, but this is just a brilliant track. It's a vocal track. And I talked earlier, you know, Cave no Uta I'm not particularly in love with, but this is a great case for you can make a lyrical vocal track out of a melodic stage theme or a boss theme from a Cave game and make it just totally sublime. And I think that's what Kirioka does with this track. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I enjoy this one. It's definitely a huge departure from the original.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a different one, for sure.
When it comes to her, like, this style, which she's also done with, like, some of her original tunes, that's definitely a select taste, I think. But I think she has this kind of crazy mentality when it comes to doing songs like this.
Well, I like the idea of going from sublime to eccentric back and forth. So you get, like, the weird rhythmic stuff, and then you get, like, the smooth, beautiful stuff. And I can really get into that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I really like it. All right, we're moving forward to, oh my gosh. Oh, this one's so good. I'm getting excited just looking at the name. This is the DO-DON-PACHI DAI-FUKKATSU Black Label original soundtrack. So it was just, 1 year prior that they put out the DAI-FUKKATSU OST. And then in 2010, February 2010, they put out the Black Label OST. We're starting with Presentiment, Stage 4A from Yoshimi Kudo. And this was Don's pick. Don, before we talk about the track, we're going to let it play. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Black Label series from Cave? What does it mean when a game has gone Black Label?
Well, usually it's a new mode or like, higher difficulty.
Yeah.
But
What's that mean for the music?
well, not always the case, but in this case, the music, they want it to be redone entirely. And I know from talking that the composers only had a month to compose all this music.
Wow.
And that Namiki wanted, as he put it in our interview, if you think of the white label as the straight A students, the bad students who mock them are the black label, and that he wanted to take this like postmodern deconstruction / reconstruction approach to his ideal game soundtrack. So because the other composers who helped were much younger, and he wanted the soundtrack a certain way, he gave them examples of electronic music that he wanted this to sound like. So he gave them examples of like Prodigy, Daft Punk, and 2 like Japanese electronic artists, Shinichi Osawa and Kitsune.
Oh yeah, Osawa is awesome.
And it was definitely not the music that they were used to. So
wow.
So they still managed to pull this all together in 30 days time.
I can't believe it. I didn't know that, Don, that this was done in a month. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, that's seriously incredible. Now it's interesting, Namiki led the charge and still did plenty of work, most of the work on this album, but you selected one of Kudo's tracks, and we're about to switch over. I selected one of Chiba's tracks. This is Xanadu Stage 2A, and I had a hard time picking between this one and a few others. There's so many. I mean, this whole OST is solid gold. It's substantial. This is like a full course meal, man. This OST feels good. But this track from Chiba this beat is just so catchy. What do you think, Don? You like this one?
I absolutely love this whole soundtrack.
Yeah.
The only issue I have with it is that on the first boss theme, whoever mastered it fucked it up. Whoops, sorry. I usually you can bleep that one out if you want. But I mean, they mastered it so bad that it clips so bad in the very beginning.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's too bad. Yeah, that is a mark against it, but nothing against the composers because they weren't the ones who let that slip through.
It was mastered by someone at Cave, and I think even Namiki mentioned that he wasn't happy with the mastering at some point.
He probably knew about that track. I think that's all the more we're going to share from Xanadu. I love this song, and if you want more, find that Black Label soundtrack. It is totally worth it. And that art, too, man. The cover of this album is just so cool. It's just everything cool. All right, now we're hitting another Black Label. We get 2 Black Labels in a row. Next one is Espgaluda 2 Black Label OST. Now, this one, I think this is the first time that a person that left this world too soon really started getting involved with Cave at this point. I know he was involved earlier, but correct me if I'm wrong, Don, he did the arrangements for this full thing, right?
Yes, that's correct. And he even borrowed, for at least the track that you're listening to now, Stage 5, some of the stuff from the first game. So
yes.
It's like a fusion.
Yeah, he's really good. And the man we're talking about, some of you already know who I'm referring to. His name is Ryu Umemoto. We're going to hear a bunch from Umemoto in the next hour. He becomes a central figure for Cave, starts doing a lot of arrangement, original compositions, and facilitates putting together some of those arrange albums. I know that he was well loved and respected by a lot of people at Cave. Unfortunately, he passed away. I believe it was some sort of lung infection that just took him over fully. He was in his late 30s when he passed away. It was in, I think, August of 2011, July or August of 2011. Umemoto, before he started working with Cave, was already an accomplished composer. He was well known for his work in adventure games, graphic adventures, eroge type games, Eve Burst Error, really classic games. So Umemoto starts doing work with Cave, though, and in 2010, we start with, this is his first full album under Cave, and it's the black label for Espgaluda 2, and it's really a special album. Really enjoy the music. You guys are here in Stage 5, and, he's doing a lot of great stuff with the track here. I'm just going to let it play out a bit, and then I'm going to skip to the track I chose. If you guys can detect a pattern in me, you'll probably know which track it is. Oh, what's that I hear? Oh yeah, Stage 1. Ha ha ha, joke's on me, I always choose Stage 1. But this is actually the last Stage 1 track I'm choosing for the rest of this video series, so y'all are in luck, I guess? Maybe you're not. Stage 1 themes are awesome. So I love the Stage 1 theme to Espgaluda 2 as it existed on the OST. Umemoto's arrangement of it here on the black label, though, is just a notch better for me. I love the piano stuff that he's doing, and it's just a smoother experience. I think it's more polished. It's good. What do you think, Don?
Yeah, I really enjoy what he did here, and I think the sentiment is that a lot of people enjoy these versions more than the original. Well, there are a few exceptions in my case, but for the most part, I also agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And for consumers who want to play the game, Espgaluda 2 Black Label, I believe, is available, and not just available, but I think there's like an HD version of it that you can get for your iPad, so it looks really good, and you'll hear this music, which sounds really good. It's like a double win. But I can't let you have too much of a good thing. I have to go and give you... Oh wait, I'm giving you more of a good thing.
Well, before we get into that, I want to make what I had hinted about earlier, I can now talk about. You did hear this from me, but Death Smiles Arrange album wasn't originally going to be Death Smiles Arrange album.
What was it going to be?
Originally, it was going to be ESP Rade Arrange album. Because it went with the Guwange.
Right.
But that changed, and then it was going to be ESP Galuda 2 Arrange album. And then that changed to what we are given now. I really would have preferred to see one of those, because we already had a Death Smiles Arrange album, but that's just me.
Yeah, it's sort of like on the one hand, to get more coverage of source material, that'd be awesome. But then on the other hand, I feel like this Arrange album, which is the one where it's not Namiki picking people, which I think included a lot of Base Escape people, this one has some really interesting people. The track you're hearing now, the arrangement of Lost Forest, is Soyo Oka, who is amazing. The Super Nintendo Sim City, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, Mario Kart? Like, this is really awesome and old school, and suddenly you got this beautiful arrangement of Lost Forest, which, by the way, I love Lost Forest. I love it in the game. I love this version. Let's listen. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. There's no doubt. The track that I've selected, we mentioned Hiroki Kikuta earlier in saying his arrangement of Grieving Womb wasn't particularly amazing. However, this arrangement of Gravekeeper's Anger, stage A2 from Death Smiles, this is basically like a B-side from Sokaigi.
Yeah, well,
and I love it.
And Grieving Room was definitely Secret of Mana inspired.
Yeah, but it didn't have the punch that Secret of Mana had.
No, of course not.
Whereas this, I think, is sort of on par with some of my favorites from Sokaigi, like Firewire. This reminds me of that track. Just the jazzy piano, at least. Before we move on to the next album, and we'll let this track continue to play, Don, who are some of the other arrangers and some of the other tracks on this album that you did appreciate?
Let's see, that I did appreciate on this album?
Yeah, because I know you said, it was tough having to get more Death Smiles, but there was stuff here that was good, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I absolutely love Yak's arrangement. I like Akira Yamaoka's arrangement. I like Koshiro's arrangement, and I absolutely love Iwadari's arrangement, and then Klonoa composer Eriko Imura's arrangement with some help by Technouchi.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, and when you look to see and match them up, like who did what, this is a really interesting list of people. I mean, you got Kenji Ito and Junya Nakano, like classic Square Enix composers, and
they have a very classic Square, their classic Square sound also.
Yeah. It's crazy, and we got Ryo Umimoto does Stage Clear, which he does a couple of Stage Clear themes as we go through some of these later albums. He's sort of like a pinch hitter for Stage Clear for a while. It also has, and some people don't know who this is, but I love this man. Tsukasa Masuko is old school Shin Megami Tensei. We're talking like way before Shoji Meguro, and I love his music, so I was just happy to see his name. His arrangement is for track 9, which is Awakened Giant Beast, stage C2. And it's not the world's best arrangement, it's pretty good, but I was just happy to see him participate, honestly. Alright, so this album came out on May 15th, so did the Black Label album for Espeluded 2, and so did a third album. 3 albums in one day, only Cave, and I think this was this associated with the Cave Matsuri?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, because 3 in one day, that's crazy. And there were drama albums that came out this day too that we're not covering. This album is Cave no Uta Black Label, which is interesting because it's like, alright, we black labeled a vocal collection? It's not for a game, it's just remixes of vocal tracks and some more vocal tracks that had come out since the first Cave no Uta also make it in here. Now, the selection Don made is a really good choice. I think this is a really good song. This is Cherry Blossom Bonds. Talk to us a bit about this.
Well, I chose this one because I thought the original was also very good, but I kind of just like this bossa nova, loungy kind of jazz style. Not much more I can say about that. It's just beautiful.
All right, let's listen to it for a bit. And now, after such a beautiful track, I pulled out what was probably the least listenable track from the original, and it became more listenable thanks to the remix, which is done by Kohayashi. This track is called Awa-Odori with Tako and Kinyo, and you'll hear the Kinyo, 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 and it's just this weird call and response chant vocal in the chorus. It's a talk song talk kind of deal, and I don't know. This is another one that's terrible, but it's catchy anyway.
Oh my god, I absolutely hate... Well, this is a much more listenable version. And I even know the arranger for this absolutely hated the original. and he's like, you can only improve it so much.
He made it a lot better. I can't stand the original, but this one I think is fun.
Yeah, it's definitely much more listenable, thanks to like the very Nine Inch Nails-y kind of accompaniment.
Yeah. And it's also worth noting, this song and a couple of other songs off of Cave no Uta, these songs are from like these little puzzle games that don't have OSTs. They're not even on the Voice Bowl collection. Like, they're games you've never heard of. They're never come to America. They're just weird little arcade games. And that's what this one's from.
Octopus.
Octopus. It's funny, like you remember it. I don't.
Yeah, Heyo Octopus.
Heyo Octopus. All right, that's all the more I can tell you that.